Welcome everybody to another comic book review. This time is for Savage Avengers Volume 1. This is the graphic novel collection. I believe this collects issues 1 through 4, I believe. So Savage Avengers is the newest kind of incarnation of Avengers teams. This one includes characters like Punisher, Wolverine, Venom, Elektra, Brother Voodoo, and who I don't really know much about, honestly, and also Conan, which is kind of like the flagship character of this story. You could pretty much call this Conan and his amazing friends if you really wanted to, because he is kind of the character who gets a lot of attention in the book. I think him and Wolverine get a lot of attention for whatever reason, but and the main villain of the story is actually, I forget his name, but he's this ancient evil wizard that uses a lot of blood magic and stuff. He's basically like he's basically Conan's Joker. Like Conan's like main antagonist from the comic books back in the day and all that. And also Marvel has been kind of just in the last few months they've really been pushing Conan in the current continuity of characters in the current timeline, really just kind of making him a big part of this. I forget how he even gets here in our time, but they've really been pushing him a lot. I've been seeing him in all kinds of advertisements and different covers and stuff and books. And I've never really been a huge Conan fan. I did enjoy this book a lot though. But for everything I do enjoy by this book, I do have some small nitpicks, and they're really just nitpicks. Overall, I do think this is a good book, a very fun read, especially if you like a lot of action, if you like a lot of violence. There's a lot of blood, bloodshed in here, a lot of just badassery, if you will. Let me go ahead and get into it. I think usually in my reviews I just go through a couple main segments, and this will be a spoiler-free review. I'm not going to spoil anything super big in the story. But with that being said, I do want to basically add a little extra part where I talk about different characters in the team. Since this is a team book, I do want to go over the team composure and like the way they interact with each other, and if I think they're well written or well used within the context of this book. So let's go ahead and start with Conan, since he is kind of the flagship character. I've never been a huge fan of sword and sorcery type stories or high fantasy stories, and the characters that are in those stories are usually not all that appealing. And Conan kind of feels one dimensional in this. He just feels like you're kind of your standard badass barbarian who doesn't fish out of water, who doesn't understand what's going on. He compares everything to stuff he's used to. Like he compares a lot of science stuff to witchcraft or wizardry, and all that kind of standard barbarian ancient jargon that or dialogue, and just ignorance. It just kind of was boring to me, honestly. Everything about the way Conan is written just felt very basic in terms of like, the kind of dialogue you would expect from a badass barbarian, back in the old days, just rough and tumble, reckless, jump into the fray no matter what he's up against, kind of acting and dialogue. So yeah, it's just kind of I do like his interactions with Wolverine though. Him and Wolverine have some fun interactions. He instantly starts to respect Wolverine because of his fighting ability and his ability to just stay alive. He keeps calling Wolverine deathless or whatever, and he calls Wolverine's blades sneak blades, and throughout the issue he keeps talking about wanting sneak blades. So I thought that was cool. Yeah, that's probably the best thing about Conan in this book is his interactions with Wolverine. The times when him and Wolverine are together in the scenes are some of the best scenes. Uh, and they're also some of the funniest scenes too. The book is not really a comedy by any means, but Wolverine especially does have a lot of the physical humor in the story, a lot of the sarcastic kind of remarks, and a lot of the humor does come from Wolverine, and also in also Conan. There's one scene in particular. I think I have it. Let me find the file. Yeah, this scene. There is a scene in the book where Wolverine does get like messed up pretty bad, and he's still recovering from his injuries, and he goes to like make a stand, but he just falls down because he's so out of it and wore out. So Conan's like, "Come on, man!" Conan's trying to motivate him. He picks him up and just starts swinging Wolverine around while Wolverine's blades are out, and he's just like, and Wolverine's just mowing down enemies while he's unconscious, being like thrown around by Conan. It's a really funny scene. It almost kind of feels like it's really comical, but it fits in within the story, I think. And that's what all the comedy. I think the comedy does work well. It's not a whole lot of it, but it works well within the context of the story. It doesn't make it too light. And so, without getting too much into spoiler territory, the basic premise of the story of this first volume is that the evil wizard guy, he's basically trying to summon this ancient evil, and he needs a ritual in order to do it, he has to fill this bowl with a bunch of blood from the greatest warriors of all the world has to offer. So he is basically putting things in motion. He's made this alliance with the Hand and a couple other organizations that are not really very well represented in the book, so it's kind of hard to tell who they are. But they're basically trying to lure and bait these different characters, badass characters, together so they can kill them and use their blood to fuel the bowl. And it's kind of simple, but definitely not the most original or engaging plot. But it serves its purpose. It's really just the plot's really just kind of a device to get the characters into motion and get them working together and get them doing badass cool stuff. So yeah. As far as the other characters go, Electra, she's fine in this book. She actually kind of like becomes the leader character, and she really takes dominance over like giving commands and like sending people on like assignments and stuff. It's kind of weird how she just automatically just does it so quickly, and no one else really even tries to step up. Even though there's so many alpha male kind of characters in this team, you think they would. Punisher, he's not really used a whole lot in the book. He doesn't really do a whole lot of anything that's super important, but he is the scenes he is in are fun. There are very well done scenes. He does add a little bit of like cool factor to the story, and he does get some nice one liners and and some moments, a few badass moments. But overall, he's really not the biggest part of the story. So I mean, but I still love Punisher, and the way he's introduced into the story is really cool. And I do like that idea. The way Venom is introduced into the story feels honestly very kind of rushed and kind of lazy. It's just kind of there. It's a cool the way they actually do it is cool because it's like the way the scene in which he pops up is cool. But overall, I think the way they do it, it's like the writers were like, okay, we need to throw Venom in here, but we don't have the space to do it in the storyboard, so let's just kind of boom, he's in the story. Kind of that's how I felt. Brother Blood. So brother Voodoo, man, it's hard to say for some reason. So I'll be honest, I've never really read much of anything with Brother Voodoo in it. He's like back in the day, he was always just kind of this like third rank kind of like copper age character. So I just never really paid that much attention to him. I don't really like his character in this story that much. He feels so out of place, even though he is a voodoo wizard and has all this dark magic or black magic. He feels so out of place. He's honestly the way he dresses, the way he kind of talks and acts. He feels like almost like a '70s black exploitation character, which is fine, but it just doesn't really, to me, it doesn't blend in with the rest of the characters and what's going on in this particular story. I mean, most of the story takes place in the Savage Land, so he just sticks out like a sore thumb a lot to me. Um, he's also kind of the exposition drop. He just talks a lot and tells everybody else the rules and what's going on and how to respond to the magic. Like he's the most knowledgeable person. Like of the people on the team, he is the guy who knows the most about what's going on. So he ends up being the exposition drop for the audience, which maybe why I don't like him that much because it really makes his character feel like less interesting because everything he talks about is just like a lot of magic jargon and stuff. So yeah, but he is pretty powerful and his magic just kind of pops up. Like whenever the story needs him to be able to do a certain kind of thing, all of a sudden he can do it. It's just that was a little annoying and felt like the writers could have did a better job at kind of focusing him in with his like what the extent of his abilities are within the story. But whatever, it still works. He's just not my favorite. He's definitely like the less defined of the characters. So overall, I do like this book. I love the art. I think especially this picture right here, this image right here is so awesome in my opinion. The way the rain, the effect of the rain, the effect of the hand soldier coming down from the top of the bird's eye view of the panel and the sun or the light just kind of shooting up around him. It's in Wolverine looking up. Everything about this panel is so amazing. And there's a few panels like that where there are just amazing, breathtaking scenes. There's some great action in this book. I love a lot of the way the interaction of characters, especially like Wolverine and Conan, Punisher, and Elektra have some fun banter, back and forth kind of stuff. Even Venom has some fun banter with Conan. They have a very interesting kind of dynamic in the book that I won't spoil, but it's kind of fun. And overall, the book is fun. The villain I think is kind of boring a little bit in terms of like his personality and the way he talks about what he does. He's kind of boring. The plot is kind of boring. It's very by the numbers, end of the world, summoning a giant, god kind of thing. It's very, very been done a million times. Yeah, I do feel like the climax of the story is a little underwhelming. It is, you know, it is set up for the next part of the story, but overall, I do feel like it's kind of just not all that super intriguing. But I still think it's a fun ride. If you like these characters, if you like just brutal, badass, you know, fights, this is probably going to be a book for you. If you like a lot of street level heroes dishing out justice, this is definitely a book for you.